In a landmark case that highlights the grim realities of modern drug trafficking, 12 members of a sophisticated and predatory County Lines gang have been sentenced to a combined 130 years in prison for their roles in orchestrating a vast and destructive criminal operation. The gang is described by police as operating at an industrial scale, built a drug dealing empire spanning across multiple counties in the East Midlands and even as far as north of Scotland. Their operations left a trail of devastation in towns and cities from Nottinghamshire to Aberdeen, driven by a hunger for profit and power and underpinned by coercion, violence and a systematic exploitation of vulnerable people, including children as young as 16. The culmination of a meticulous and years-long investigation by Nottinghamshire police, this case represents one of the largest County Lines crackdowns in recent local history. The offenders, who maintained a carefully coordinated hierarchy, were finally brought to justice yesterday at Nottingham Crown Court, where Judge Mark Watson delivered the sentences. So at the heart of the conspiracy was a tightly knit group of criminals whose primary objective was to maximise profits from the supply of Class A drugs, primarily crack and heroin. These substances were deliberately pushed onto the hands of vulnerable users, many of whom were already battling addiction and poverty. What set this group apart was their use of modern technology and marketing strategies, creating a kind of dark mirror to legitimise business operations. The gang operated 13 distinct county lines, dedicated mobile numbers used to manage drug orders and customer communications. Through these lines, they sent out tens of thousands of bulk marketing messages, some reading like advertisements aimed at enticing existing users and attracting new ones. Investigators discovered that the group had compiled a client base of over 1,400 customer phone numbers and sent out over 33,000 messages promoting their drug services. The digital infrastructure allowed them to maintain a vast distribution network that stretched across numerous towns in Nottinghamshire, including Mansfield, Hucknall, Sutton and Ashfield, and extended to parts of Lincolnshire. You got Grantham, Spalding. You got in Derbyshire, Ripley, Ilkeston, Long Eaton. In Leicestershire, you had Colville, and as I said, as far as north as Aberdeen. To support the demand and boost profits, the gang even ran house and in-crack house production, using bulking agents such as caffeine and paracetamol to stretch the drug quantities and deceive customers. So the guys that were sentenced, it says as follows. Jephte, Fikula, a senior and heavily involved gang leader, 29 years old. Fikula played a central role in directing and facilitating the group's operations. Known for reveling in the power and prestige of the drugs trade, he was more than just a street-level dealer. He was hands-on organizer and enforcer. Police discovered firearms and ammunition in properties associated with him, including a live firing weapon, underscoring the violent and dangerous undercurrents of the enterprise he helped oversee. Fikula was convicted not only of conspiracy to supply Class A, but also of possession with a firearm with intent to endanger life, possession of an imitation firearm with intent to cause fear of violence, and possession of ammunition without a certificate. Judge Watson labelled Fikula's conduct as very bad and noted he had no hesitation in arming himself to protect his empire. He was jailed for 21 years. Then you got Sipho Ncube, who's 29, is sentenced to 15 years. He was described as one of the gang's ringleaders. Ncube was often the public face of the operation's opulence. He flaunted his wealth through Rolex watches, designer fashion and social media videos, boasting openly about his lifestyle. He kept detailed handwritten notes outlining his goal of earning £20,000 a week through drug dealing. Despite previous arrests, Ncube continued offending with impunity even whilst on bail. Repeatedly found in possession of knives, he demonstrated a complete disregard for the law and an unrelenting commitment to his criminal path. As I said, he got 15 years. Then you got Ramon Campbell, who's 28. He got 14 years in jail. Campbell managed one of the gang's key drug lines and was directly responsible for recruiting and using a 16-year-old boy to traffic drugs on his behalf, a decision the court found particularly reprehensible. He also had access to the same live firearm as Fikula, further highlighting the dangerous environment in which he operated. Campbell was convicted not only of conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, but possession of a prohibited firearm and ammunition without certificate. Judge Watson condemned Campbell for deliberately placing a child in harm's way for personal gain. Then you got Kamel Mantok, who's 28 years old. He got 6 years and 4 months. Despite being arrested multiple times, Mantok continues his involvement in drug supply. Evidence revealed that he was connected to several drug lines, showing a relentless drive to profit from the trade. His persistent offending, despite prior police intervention, was taken as a clear sign of disregard for legal consequences. Then you got J. Samuel Grant, who's 26.
9 years and 6 months.
He got... So alongside another man, Comrie Patterson, which we'll go through in a moment, Grant oversaw the day-to-day management of the operation in Nottingham. He was stationed at a key location for the gang's activities and drug preparation. During a raid in April 2023, Grant was caught attempting to dispose of heroin and coke but failed. The court heard that Grant was heavily embedded in the logistics of the operation, helping coordinate supply, chain couriers and storage. Then you got Terrell Comrie Patterson, is 28.
9 years and 11 months.
Jail. Comrie Patterson acted as a co-manager of the group's Nottingham hub, working in tandem with Grant. He was described as controlling in his relationship with a 16-year-old boy who lived with him and was using for transporting drugs. A disturbing reflection of how young lives were manipulated and put at risk. Then you got God Praise
15 years.
Bowen. Despite being one of the younger defendants, Bowen was entrusted with the operation of 2 of the gang's most lucrative drug lines in Hucknall and Spalding. He also had a role in wholesale drug supply to other dealers. Though he wasn't in the top tier of leadership, Bowen showed aspirations to reach the higher echelons and was described by the judge as ambitious and increasingly trusted within the gang. Then you got Bailey
6
Reid,
years and 9 months.
25. Reid was a trusted logistics member of the group, heavily involved in the storage and prep of drugs. He was responsible for safeguarding around 1.5 kilos of bulking powder, which was used to increase the volume of crack, and practice not only increased profits but also heightened the risk to users. You got Gail Land, who's 24, got sentenced. He was known as the gang's quartermaster, a term used by the court to reflect his logistical role. He distributed drugs to the street dealers each day and collected the cash they brought back. This role was vital to maintain the smooth and consistent operation of the supply chain. You got Aidan Farrer, responsible for managing a drug line based in Long Eaton and Stapleford, from which he sent out over 7,000 bulk marketing messages. His role in the digital promotion of the gang service was instrumental in maintaining contact with users and boosting demand. You got Laquan Fogo, who's 20.
8 years.
You got Jephte. He was the youngest adult member and he was trusted with producing crack and managing a line in Sutton and Ashfield. He was also a habitual knife carrier, raising concerns about his potential for violence. The court recognised that his young age meant there was hope for rehabilitation, but his involvement with serious production level work warranted a substantial sentence. Then you got Amang Kanyai, who's 25, was sentenced. He was convicted after trial, having shown no remorse or intention to cooperate. He was found to be actively involved in running lines to Colville, Mansfield and Long Eaton, described as an enthusiastic, determined participant in the gang's wider strategy. Detective Inspector Luke Todd of Nottinghamshire Police said Class A drugs ruin countless lives and the trade in these substances brings misery to our communities. That's why we devote so many hours of police work and our specialist teams working on cases like this to disrupt the shutdown drug lines. I'd like to thank many officers from multiple teams who worked on this case. Investigating one line can be complex, but 13 lines have been linked to this group, which shows the enormous scale of their operation. He said, following today's sentencings, our thoughts are with the gang's many victims, both vulnerable people they coerced into selling their drugs and the unfortunate and desperate addicts who become their customers. Ultimately, whole communities both in Nottinghamshire and elsewhere will benefit from the drug lines being identified and shut down.